This is a democracy, and the American people didn't elect us to stand up for Citigroup. They elected us to stand up for all the people.
Senator Elizabeth Warren has seized de facto control of the Democratic Party leadership in this lame duck session of Congress that is struggling to find a way to finance government. Elizabeth Warren wants to do it without surrendering on hard-earned legislative victories that Democrats have already won, including the Dodd-Frank bill regulating the financial industry. The Democrat who has the title of leader in the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, was in favor of the Republican budget deal before she was against it. Nancy Pelosi decided not to fight Elizabeth Warren in the end, but to join her.
Here we are in the House being blackmailed to vote for an appropriations bill. This is a moral hazard. We're being asked to vote for a moral hazard. Why is this in an appropriations bill? Because it was the price to pay to get an appropriations bill. And I'm enormously disappointed that the White House feels that the only way they can get a bill is to go along with this.
Joining me now is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Luke Russert and editor-in-chief of Roll Call, Christina Bellantoni. Luke Russert, tell us about Nancy Pelosi's movements on this. Wasn't she part of the leadership group that agreed to this deal with Republicans in the first place?
Yeah, it's kind of a fascinating dynamic, Lawrence. You had today President Obama, Harry Reid, and Steny Hoyer versus Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren. This is quite a dynamic that played out. Originally, a lot of Democrats in the leadership did not think that that change to Dodd-Frank would be a big deal. Now, why is that? Back in 2013, and this vote went to the House floor, over 70 Democrats, including Steny Hoyer, supported that. Also, the big change in campaign finance donations that went up to $324,000 per individual, that was directly negotiated between Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell. So make no mistake about it, this deal had the blessing of the leadership and the White House. What changed is what you said. Elizabeth Warren going to the Senate floor yesterday saying that if this were to go through, it would show the American people that the system is totally corrupt, the system is for sale. That had a big impact on a lot of House Democrats who, quite frankly, Lawrence, don't have a very good relationship with this White House, have been fed up by playing second fiddle, have been fed up by being cut out of these negotiations, and they decided they wanted to take a stand. I think what we saw tonight, while they weren't able to completely block it after Dennis McDonough, the chief of staff, came up here and sort of talked to them and said, look, this is a much better deal for us that we can get a hand in how spending goes forward till September of next year, so we want to take it. But what you saw was, for the first time during the Obama administration, the left flank saying enough is enough. We're not going to take it. We want to fight on our turf right now. And this is significant because it does show you there's an appetite in the Democratic Party for purity. And who fits purity better? Elizabeth Warren, much more so than Hillary Clinton, Lawrence.
And Elizabeth Warren turned out to be leading more than the left flank in the House of Representatives. 139 Democrats voted with Elizabeth Warren on this, which is to say against the bill. Only 57 Democrats voted for the bill. We heard what Elizabeth Warren said yesterday on the Senate floor. Let's listen to what she said this morning on the Senate floor.
A vote for this bill is a vote for future taxpayer bailouts of Wall Street. When the next bailout comes, a lot of people will look back to this vote to see who was responsible for putting the government back on the hook to bail out Wall Street. Why, in the last minute, as you head out the door and a spending bill must be passed, are you making it a priority to do Wall Street's bidding? Who do you work for, Wall Street or the American people?
Christina Bellantoni, Elizabeth Warren got 139 Democrats in the House to follow her. How many senators will line up with her?
Well, what's really important to note about this is, yes, the House just passed this bill, but Harry Reid just said they're going to pass a short-term continuing resolution to keep the government open to give the Senate a time to debate this measure tomorrow. So anything could happen. I mean, when it comes to getting out of town at the end of the year, I would not put anything past lawmakers of gumming up the system. And Elizabeth Warren does have a lot of influence right now. We also know that Nancy Pelosi told her House Democratic caucus members, and I quote, "I'm giving you the leverage to do whatever you have to do. We have enough votes to show them never to do this again." That's what a source in the room is telling Roll Call's reporters. And, you know, this is a real power play between Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. She's been the least powerful person in leadership at the table for quite a while. And she's basically, I mean, that floor speech today was a real slap in his face. And this was clearly a deal the White House wanted to see passed when they put out an endorsement of it earlier today, and to allow the Republicans to have to pull it off and see what would happen while the markets went down. You know, it was a really interesting ploy and gambit as it all falls apart.
I got to say, Christina, what you just told us about Harry Reid asking for time to debate this is not a good sign for the bill. You know, normally we all know if you have the votes, you ram it through as fast as you can. Him delaying it tomorrow, the way it sounds like he's doing, Luke, that sounds like there could be problems in the Senate.
Well, they don't really have another option, Lawrence, because of the hour. I mean, it is so late. So just the way it would work procedurally, they need these 2 days in order to move forward, because I don't think they would be able to get unanimous consent.
Right.
But that Senate vote is going to be fascinating. That debate is going to be fascinating, because you could very well see Ted Cruz and Elizabeth Warren on the same side of a debate, obviously coming from totally different schools of thought. But you're starting to sort of see where things are shaking out, not only with both parties, but also this sort of populism that's come up with this. Populism on the right against this bill was much of it against immigration reform, but also you did reform, but also you crony capitalism coming out of it. So I'm fascinated by this Senate debate, and I don't think it'll be so much as a slam dunk as a lot of people thought it would be earlier. It's definitely going to be something that'll get heated.
Christina, Elizabeth Warren has in effect sent a message to Republicans. You're going to have to do this kind of thing. You cannot count on Democrats to step up and do this for you. 162 Republicans were forced to vote yes in the House tonight in order to get this thing passed. Surely a bunch of them didn't want to do that and didn't plan to do it as recently as 24 hours ago.
Sure. You know, and it's interesting, one of our reporters chimed in that Jim Moran, a retiring Virginia Democrat, told reporters tonight this is one of the reasons he's glad he's retiring from the House, because of the way this process works. But when you see someone who is a younger member of the Senate, someone who does have that progressive side that is really uniting behind her, she's got a voice at the leadership table now. So the 114th Congress is going to be really interesting as Mitch McConnell tries to pull together all of his disparate Republicans, who, by the way, some of them are running for president. And then Elizabeth Warren has a voice with Harry Reid and with the rest of leadership to be able to say, you know, we're going to take a little bit of a stand here. And the word leverage that Nancy Pelosi used is so interesting, because Democrats really, you think they don't really have leverage. When you have the tools when you have the power in Congress, you have the tools to manipulate the floor votes in your favor, pretty much run the table with it. But thinking that you have leverage really says something different about the party.
Luke Russert and Christina Bellantoni, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Have a good night.